now to you guys out there. Man, it's early in the week. It's Thursday. 7 p.m. Eastern time. We'll try to work on timing of these types of videos. Most people watch them on replay and not so much live. And that's good too. But we do get several hundred sometimes watching live. So I thought we'd jump into a new topic this week and talk about HEX and the HELOC potential with Actuator.Finance. So this is deep into the walled garden of HEX staking for sure. Right? Not everybody's super interested in staking these days, but there's a group of people, 1,000 or so. You might be able to extrapolate that out to 2,000 or 3,000 users who continue to stake HEX on Pulse Chain. And so this is part of that effort to get that information out to people. So with that, if you guys have comments, drop them or questions, drop them in the chat. We'll try to get them all answered up here. Let's go take a look at some of this. Now, for those of you who've never been aware of it, there is a protocol out there, an audited protocol. It's been in operation since October 2024 called Actuator.Finance. In this protocol, and by the way, that's the website as well. This particular protocol is a bond market for HEX. Right, so it exclusively utilizes HEX staking instances, which are HEX stakes that are built using the HSI protocol to create stakes, which are able to be moved and sent and traded or used as collateral. And in the case of Actuator.Finance, the stakes are used as collateral in order to mint something called an HTT token. And so right about here, things get complicated. But if somebody wanted to really go look at this and get more information, you can go to Actuator.Finance. They have a whole collection of documents out there, specs, explaining how the system works, etc. You can also come here and find lots of documents and streams and data about how this all works. So you see there's some educational links down here at the bottom on the page, the front page, etc. So what is this thing? Right, so Actuator.Finance, you go take a look at that, and that'll give you information about Actuator.Finance. We're going to try to answer some of those questions here anyways and try to get into it. And so my thumbnail is all about HEX as a HELOC. Now this is kind of interesting, funny, maybe coincidence, that HELOC stands for home equity line of credit. And so yeah, you could replace that as HEX equity line of credit. Of course, this is crypto. And so of course the dollar value of a HEX or a HEX stake varies with the price as driven by the market, right? So you always have to be putting on your protection hat there and be careful about what you do in crypto, of course. Now, how this is like a HELOC is that people are able to come in to utilize this protocol, and what they are able to do is to go print or mint specific HTTs, which just stands for HEX time token. And the best way to think about this is just think of it as one HEX in the future. And I pulled up their farm page here on the screen just to show what they're doing right now. But an HTT 3000, this threw me off at first. I got all confused, like, why are all these numbers? And people can have their own numbers, and you can actually go become a issuer of bonds on your own and go create an HTT for whatever day if you'd like. And if somebody's already created that same day, you can just jump on top of that one You don't have to actually do the creation process. But an HTT 3000 is simply this. It's a token backed 1-to-1 with HEX that in the future will be worth 1-to-1 with HEX. So on HEX day 3000, you can come back to this protocol, and if you have any HTT 3000s, you will get 1 HEX for them. You'll get 1 HEX. And 4000, same thing. Day 4000, 5000, day 5000. HTT 6000, day 6000. HTT 7000, day 7000. And then there are some other HTTs that are out there that are not farmed, but are also available that people have been experimenting with and creating HTTs to issue their own bonds. And creative numbers like 5555, 6666, and 7777, all corresponding to the redemption dates of those HTTs. All right, so 1 HTT is going to be worth 1 HEX in the future. But currently, and this is where things get interesting, currently, those HTTs are driven by market forces. And because they're driven by market forces, the market decides what each of these HTTs is worth on the market. And that provides opportunities for other people. Now, this is not a hard show like everybody should go do Actuator. This is a educational segment to kind of go over what Actuator is. And so the people who are interested, they could go look and do this. And again, this is probably not this is not entry-level stuff. It's not entry-level stuff. But when we boil it down, we can get down to some real basic things. And so what I pulled up on the screen here is a list of different tokens associated with Actuator.Finance, specifically, again, those HTTs. And I'm going to point to this third column here that says price native. Price native. When you look at the price native, you can see that 1 HTT 7777 is right now currently valued at 0.47 HEX. 0.47 HEX. And then you can see each one of these have a different value. The 7000s at 0.65, 6666 at 0.95, 6000s at 7.1. The Quattro Cinco, HTT Quattro Cinco is equal 1-to-1 with HEX. Currently on the price, 5000s, 0.72, etc. Now, what does this mean? This means that when somebody is interested in one of these tokens, let's say they would like to get more exposure to HEX and they want to do it through HTTs, what they're able to do is know definitively right now how much HEX they'll get at the end. And in this way, it is very much like a bond market. Because using the Actuator page, let's go to their app, and we're going to go to their app. Then we're going to go to their dashboard on the front page. And we're going to look at some of the different information that they have on their page. Specifically, I want to look at this listing here of the different tokens. And so I'm going to look at HTT 3000, which is smack dab here in the middle of the page. And you can see HTT 3000, its current dollar price, and what its discount to HEX is. It's about 20% discounted, give or take. And, in crypto, it doesn't matter. Some of these numbers are usually so close together. Maybe it doesn't matter, but the discount, we do the math on it, is about 19%. So we know that day 3000 is 1.8 years away, almost about a little bit less than 2 years away, February of 2028. On day 3000, this HTT, 1 HTT, will be 1 HEX, because whether the market values it at 1 HEX or not, you can come back to this protocol and redeem it for 1 HEX. And so very much, this is all about HEX, guys. So it is very much about HEX and how to broaden your holdings of HEX. Or, in some cases, some people want to exit their HEX, and that's okay too. Right? It is crypto, it's DeFi, people can do what they want to do. So you do have that aspect as well. But if we look at it and say, okay, well, what would be what would be the ROI on that? Well, the ROI is roughly about 25% between now and then. Now, I guess you'd have to go look at the math dollar-wise, etc. But it's roughly about 20% to 25% is the return on investment. If somebody's able to pick up an HTT 3000 now and it's truly at a discount of around 20%, that would mean that you're going to get 20% more, and so your return will be just a little bit higher than 20%. So maybe it's roughly 24, 25%. And from that, you can back calculate by year and divide by the number of years. And that comes out to about 13.57% APR. So in this way, people can come to a bond market like this, and they can know for certain that they will have 24% more HEX if they were to go into an HTT 3000 by swapping into it when we get to redemption date. And so it's 100% fixed in that way. You know exactly what you're going to get in HEX. This has nothing to do with price. It doesn't tell you what price is going to be. That's a whole different story, though the backing for these tokens primarily is HEX. And so these prices do move up and down with HEX. So in a very succinct way, if you're interested in HEX and you're interested in obtaining more HEX, this is another avenue to be able to get additional HEX, because what people will do is when they see really, really steep discounts, they may go swap into HTT 3000s, because if they swapped into, let's say they were going to swap in to get 100 HEX worth. Well, when they get it back later, they'll have their 100 HEX will go in, and they'll get their 120-ish, say, HTT 3000s. Well, that 120 becomes 120 HEX in 1.8 years. So I'm trying to be careful about how to describe this, but if somebody has a question about this, go ahead and ask in the chat. I see some people out there, Crypto Ape, and I see Fast Abdul and Van. Good to see you guys. So that's really the oversimplified thing is this, is for, we don't have to know the motivations for what everybody does and why they do it. The market is a great equalizer in that way. On PulseX, there are people who have put HTTs up into LP, and the market decides what they're worth. And based on that, other people who are interested in acquiring these things, they can pick them up, at a discount, right? So you're able to get them at a discount. They know what their fixed ROI is going to be over time if they were to hold the entire time, right? And so quite often, the best way to come into these is to simply swap when they're cheap. When they're cheap. All right. Now, a different use case would be, and let's switch back over here. We'll look at in particular, we're going to go look at the Cuatro Cincos. Now, as always, when we're talking about DeFi and crypto, liquidity does matter. Okay, so everything isn't equal. I'm using this as an example. There's not a lot of liquidity out there. There might be 1K liquidity total on this particular token. And I do have values listed. I mean, you can see that the 7,000s, I think, is the biggest one. They have $63,000 US fiat. HTT to HEX, right? So the HTT 7000 HEX, which is pretty reasonable. It's still a smallish amount, but there's quite a few other tokens in the ecosystem, of course, we know, that are just as low or lower. And before the price dropped in HEX, this was valued a lot higher. It was a couple $100,000, perhaps. I think I remember it being maybe 130,000, 150,000 immaterial at the moment. But as a example, the other use case that people have is that, hey, when an HTT is overpriced. So remember, 5555 is the day that this is redeemable 1-to-1 HEX, right? And so there are ways to determine when something is overpriced. And since this is about 1 hex to 1 HTT right now, we can tell by looking at it, it is overpriced, right? There should be a discount. There should be a discount. Now, and that's because the market should be discounting it for the time it will take to get to day 5555, right? But it's not. So right now it's set up at 1 to 1. And so what a person could do, and it's a very clean example for this purpose, a person could do is come in and say, okay, well, I'd like to take advantage of this 1 to 1 ratio, because I know it probably should be something that should be discounted at least 20 or 30%. And they can come in and either take an existing HEX staking instance or do a new HEX staking instance, delegate to the contract, and mint HTT Quattro Cincos and get 1 to 1, in terms of value out of the market for each one that they mint. So effectively they could do something that we call amplification, where let's just say that I haven't run the numbers on this, but let's just say the current liquidity can handle a 10,000 hex stake, 10,000 hex being traded through it, and therefore it can handle 10,000 HTT 5555s. Someone could go make a new HSI stake for, let's say, 10,000 hex. They can mint their HTT 5555, immediately swap it for 10,000 hex, minus fees and that kind of stuff, but immediately swap it for 10,000 hex and make a second stake for 10,000 hex. You see, I hope that's clear, right? So when they're overpriced, what you're able to do is go the other way. If you have the HTTs, you can swap them for something else that you like and take that value off the market, knowing that you got a good deal. All right. So there are people specifically who are watching these different valuations, and they're looking for opportunities to obtain more HEX through this process. And it's either whether they're discounted, or that they're too expensive, right? Now, granted, there's not a lot of activity right now on the entire chain, right? And so not a lot of activity. That's a shared experience across most of the protocols right now. Probably the most hopping protocol is the ProveX protocol trading, people just trading ProveX back and forth. But we do see continuous action within the HEX and the Actuator protocol. So those are, I do think that it's something that will continue to survive as we go into the future. And this is a way for people to interact with things that are all based on HEX. Because remember, I know I didn't go into extreme detail on this, but you cannot mint more HTTs than HEX put up as collateral. So that means these are 100% collateralized. Okay, and you might say to me, yeah, but we don't know what the price is. You're right. I don't know what the price will be in the future. Can't tell you that for sure. But I can tell you that 1 HEX will be equal to 1 HEX. And on redemption date, 1 HTT is equal to 1 HEX. And so people are utilizing this for that purpose. In fact, I've even seen people do recursive trades. Like we had a day where one of the tokens was very overpriced due to some trading, and people, they did 3, 4, 5 stakes in a row, recursively obtaining more HEX and basically obtaining more HEX, minting HTTs to get more HEX, making a stake, etc. And they come out the other end with 3 or 4 stakes, which they own. They're still their stakes, even though they've minted HTTs. They still earn any additional rewards. They still control those stakes. They still control the hedron that comes out of it. They have the ability at any time to go put their HTTs back and undelegate and reverse the whole process. And so you have that option as well, where people will do that. All right, let's go take a look real quick here in the chat. I know you guys are watching what's happening in the chat. yourselves. I see some new faces there. I see C3 Works, founder of Actuator. Hello, C3 Works. Mentioning, hey, it's tough to find native 13.5% APR for 1.8 years anywhere. That's true. I mean, 13% is pretty good, and it's probably about it's not quite 10% maybe, but or 10x, but it's multiples of what staking natively would do for you right at the moment. That's for sure. If you were trying to do just a 2-year stake, you're not getting 13% APR. All right. And as he's mentioning here, especially with the reasonable outlook of a higher USD price by redemption day, right? And that's just the speculation that, of course, the HEX price will come back. It will come back. That's the speculation. Let's see here. All right, so we see that. I see Hex Wizard 369 out there. Ah, Johnny made it. Hey, Johnny. Yeah, and I think this is what I'm getting at with many more words, and this is what C3 Works is saying, is buy what's cheap, sell what's expensive. Exactly. Now, this may not be for the majority of this audience. Hey, listen, a lot of people aren't going to be trading. Okay, I get it. But crypto is based on trading, right? I mean, I think people would agree with that. I mean, we can pretend that nobody should trade ever, and it might even be the best thing for them to never trade. But crypto is kind of like driven by trading, right? I mean, how else do you get the speculation that gets people to do stuff? So, there are people that are going to be trading, and sometimes the market, based on, again, we never know what the guy on the other end is doing, right? We don't know why they do what they do. We just know that they produce situations, right? And so there are opportunities where sometimes trades are good. We know that there's opportunity for trades, and they will do that. In fact, what we've seen with the trading, I don't think we have with an actuator at the moment. I don't think we have a time travel trade available at the moment. But let me go look, and I'll just explain what I mean. I'm going to do discount to HEX. I'm going to say, hey, show it to me in order, and we can see the different discounts in order of the discount rate. And right now, everything looks pretty orderly. Meaning that the low, the one that's going to be redeemed the earliest is the lowest discount, and the one being redeemed the latest is the highest discount. But there are times where, and this is quite interesting, let me adjust the screen. There are times where, again, this is DeFi, and people do things in DeFi and that affect liquidity, and they want to exit one position and they move around, etc. Well, there are times where these discounts equalize. In fact, sometimes they reverse. And so there could be, and we've seen this happen in the past, so we know we've seen it, but I'm just going to speculate. There could be a situation at some point where the HTT 3000, for whatever reason, let's just say it gets discounted to 40%, right? Like a huge discount, doubles the discount. Well, now the discount to HEX is 40%, which means its price went down, right? Well, if the discount on HTT 4000s is still at 23%, you get many more 3000s if you were to swap from 4000 to 3000. And I call that the I don't know what you call it, C3 Works. I don't remember your exact term for it, but I call that time travel trade. Because if I end up in a situation where these discounts are that out of whack, I can get many more HTT 3000s than I probably should, which means I could take my whole bag from 4000 and swap it into 3000s, and now I've just made it so that all those HTTs I was going to wait for redemption for on 4000, I can now redeem them on day 3000. I get them 1,000 days earlier, almost 3 years. 3 years earlier. And in that way, it's kind of like a time traveling trade. I guess it's really a time curve type of a trade. And so there's that option to be able to come in and do that type of thing. Now this stuff starts getting confusing, and I know it gets pretty detailed, so I'm not trying to confuse people. What I'm trying to do is just say, listen, there are these things called HTTs out there. They're going to be equal to 1 HEX in the future. And if they're discounted, like C3 Works has said, and they're cheap, you might want them, and if they're expensive and you have some, you might want to sell them. And if they're expensive and you don't have any and you have HEX, you might want to mint HEX or stake HEX in order to mint them. And so you have all these different options within the ecosystem to be able to take advantage of that. Now, there are a lot of people that have, large amounts of HEX out there that they're not doing anything. And so the HELOC relationship here is this. We're not, obviously it's not a home equity line of credit, but it is another way. There's some other protocols out there that allow you to borrow against HEX, but this is yet another way to take HEX and do something with it. And I've heard people talk about using it like a HELOC, and which is a home equity line of credit. And if they need something for expenses today, they might want to take their HSI, delegate it, mint the HTTs, and then do whatever it is they want to do with the HTTs. They might come back, they might not come back. It's up to them. They get to decide. I don't need to know their motivation. There could be somebody who has, 200 HSIs, and they're like, hey, you know what? I'm done. Maybe they come in here and they're like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and take the little bit of haircut, and I'm going to mint my HTT 3000s, and I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z with them, sell them on the market or whatever. But here's the thing: they still own the stakes until the stake comes to the end, right? Until we get to redemption date, or 2 weeks after the redemption date, they're their stakes. They're always their stakes. And so even if it earns more rewards, they can come back and get those rewards. It's their stakes. And so they're able to do that. And in that way, they can take that value out. Maybe it's a short-term type of a thing. Maybe it's long-term. We might, with very high prices, compared to where we were last year to today, it could be very feasible that somebody might want to take some value out while not having to end their stakes or sell their HEX. The HEX stays locked. It's in those HSIs. And so this is just another utility, another tool. People can do that. Now, people who are interested in the Actuator protocol, besides just simply swapping in and out and minting, there is also a farm aspect to this. Let's bring us down into a smaller screen overall. Well, larger screen, I guess. And we're going to go look at the pools for a moment. You can come to their website, and it will tell you exactly what the pools are with HEX that are out there. Now, all liquidity is not listed here, right? These are the top liquidity pools that exist for the HTTs and for Actuator. So you have some PHEX pools. You've got primarily your PulseX pools out here, and it tells you the dollar values and all the rest. So one of the things people do with Actuator is they do what we call stacking, or stacking yield. And so they'll look at their wallet and they go, well, I got this HEX and it's not doing anything. It's just sitting there. And they'll say, oh, okay. So the first thing they do is they'll go obtain some additional HTTs, or they might swap HEX for the HTTs or whatever. But or they may go stake the HEX for more, to mint the HTTs. And so now they have an equal pile of HEX and HTTs. And what they'll do is they'll come in and they'll they'll provide LP on PulseX, right? Even this button over here where it says add liquidity, this is to add liquidity to the PulseX pools. They'll add liquidity, right? And when they add the liquidity, they start earning fees. And my estimate, we won't know until the market really comes back. Right now, I'd say I feel pretty comfortable that 1 to 2% is the fee level. And so now, instead of earning nothing on the HTT or the HEX that they have in their wallet, now they're earning 1% on the LP position of HEX and HTTs. Now, this isn't again something for like the brand new user necessarily. This takes a little bit of knowledge and guidance to get yourself in a position for that, but it's not really that heavy of a lift, right? Anybody who's done farming before would have this down. So basically they're setting up an LP position, and then what they're doing is they're going over to the farms, right? The actuator farms. And in the actuator farms, you can deposit those LP tokens, specific LP tokens, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000. So HTTs to HEX, they'll deposit here. And currently the APR has been running pretty good on this. I know there's a lot of people utilizing, I say a lot, again, remember, it's a small community, smallish community. We've got a couple hundred people that are interested in Actuator at this time. A lot of people watching, but not necessarily pushing buttons, right? But anyways, within this, we've got APRs running anywhere from 37% to 59% based on dollar value. And that's because these are incentivized pools that distribute a token called the Actuator token, ACTR. And those tokens are distributed only to the farm holders, right? And there's also a team allotment, and you can read that in the documents over here, right? You can go in this documents, go read all about that. But that is a token that gets sent out as quote unquote a reward, but it is really a revenue token. It is not just a reward token. But if you wanted to use this reward token, and I see people that do this, they receive a certain amount of actuator every block based on their deposits per rata, ratioed based on their ownership of the overall pool. They get that. They get those actuator tokens, right? And then some of them just simply sell them on the market, right? And that's okay. That's what people do, right? I mean, it's crypto again. So some people will take those rewards. I see a lot of them going into Pulse. I see a lot of them going into HEX. So people will take actuator. And if I look at the actuator, this is actually the actuator chart, just to show what it's done over this period of time since launch. It's actually held up pretty good overall. A normal kind of launch activity, lots of people buying stuff. Like I bought some the first day. I had no idea why I bought them. Somebody said buy them, so I bought some. I had no idea what they were going to be used for, and didn't understand the protocol. Actually, took me some time to really understand everything. But anyways, so you have normal kind of launch high prices, and then limited availability, and people wanted to have the actuator. Why did they want the actuator? Well, I'm going to explain that to you in a moment, because it's a revenue token. That's why they make revenue off of it. But anyways, over time, as more and more actuator had been released, price bottomed out. Right, price bottomed out back in August of 25, and now it's been kind of rising up again. It has a 3-year distribution, the token itself. So people are the protocol is distributing the token, and people are attempting to accumulate the token. Some are accumulating and some are selling. Now, why would they accumulate? Well, let's go back over to the actuator. If we go over to actuator, and I went to the earn tab earlier, I'm going to go down to vaults. So I'm looking at farms now, but I'm going to move to vaults. Well, in vaults, people are able to come in and say, I would like more HTT 7000s, let's just say, which is our most popular vault that's out there. They're like, I would like to get more HTT 7000s. And they say, wow, I'm going to deposit some actuator. So they deposit actuator, right? Makes it kind of sticky. They put the actuator in here. And when they put the actuator in here, whenever new HTT 7000s are printed, a 1% fee is taken. Again, reference the documents, and those are distributed to the vaults. And so again, if you own this entire vault, you would get all of that. And if you own a percentage of it, you get a percentage of it. And so then what ends up happening is every time someone does a new mint on an HTT 7000, you get a little piece of that. You get a little piece of that. And in that way, you're earning even more HEX, right? Because remember, an HTT in the future is 1 HEX. Right? So HEX to HET in the future is 1 HEX. And so what we have is a stacking. And I got a little graphic for this. So let me see if I pull up that little graphic. I'm gonna remove this guy here. Let me switch this over. I want to do slides, but I'm just gonna have to do Gonna have to do a screen share instead. All right, let's do this. That's one of the things I wish this program would do, is allow us to do multiple screen shares at one time. I see the questions out there. I'll get to those in a moment, guys. All right, so just looking here at a couple of different slides and just kind of referring to the stacking here in a moment. Real high level. We really believe that this protocol, just transform HEX into a market, and specifically a bond-like market or a bond market. And in this case, the HEX stakes are the collateral, right? Remember, you can't print an HTT or mint one without without having one HEX in the protocol. Got to be there. So it's 100% backed, will be worth one HEX in the future, guaranteed. HTTs are really like tradable bonds, and then the actuator is a revenue token. All right. We talked a little bit about this risk-free HEX yield, right? Discounts mean free HEX yield, right? So risk-free. You get in earlier at a lower price on the HTTs when the market makes them cheap, and you can earn on that. All right. We talked a little bit about the amplification, but this is the stack, right? So this is the HEX on HEX yield. And so again, I've seen some guys talk about doing this, where what they've done is they said, I've got this dormant HEX that I'm holding on to for a very long time. There's nothing they have planned for it in the next couple of years. And so what they've done is they take it, put it in LP with the HTTs, right? And so they start earning, right on that, like the 1 to 2% per year. Then on top of that, they're earning protocol rewards, which are actuator, right? And then what they do is they turn around, take that actuator and put it into the vaults, and they're earning even more HTTs as they get printed. Well, let's go see what we got for questions out here or comments. I see you, Johnny. All right, let's take a look. Hey, Beach Whale, good to see you. Man, we never brought that smoking thing back. I was kind of hoping we would do that. All right. Yeah, Brian Magruder's out here talking about providing LP. And hey, listen, it's not for everybody, but some people like it and they want to do it, right? And so if they want to do it, they're usually a little more experienced user. But yeah, you have that ability. All right, let's take a look here. Jex is saying, I had some new people asking, refer to your channel about staking while prices are low if they reap rewards as price and T-share payouts increase. Can you explain like where 5 the benefits? Yeah, Eli 5, right? Isn't it Eli 5? Eli 5, like I'm 5. Yep, I mean, historically, right, with crypto, very high level with crypto to start with. For anybody who's new out there, the best time to get units has always been, meaning numbers of tokens, has always been when the prices are cheapest, right? When they're low. When people are fearful and they don't think things are great, that's always been the case. Now, does that mean that everything comes back? No, right? So some things don't come back. So you do pick and choose what you want to be in, but that's the time to get into crypto. Like people, I don't know, there's people that were really sweating, Bitcoin lately and ETH. They've seemed like they've taken a corner. All right. So when we start talking about HEX, it's just that the risk reward is so high. Now listen, I know everybody hasn't been here for everything. But the reason there are people that have been around for such a long time, they're just like, all like tensioned up, is that HEX was at 1.50 cents, and so when we were talking about 100,000 HEX, it was a big deal. It was a $50,000 value. If you want to call it 40 cents, it's a $40,000 value. And now most people wouldn't get too excited about 100,000 HEX, right? So in crypto, there is something about, current, time bias and price bias. We're biased by whatever the current situation is. And so a lot of people will just not do things. They just won't take the action because they're all waiting to be not on the bleeding edge, and not even on the edge. They want, they want to be second adopters, right? But they lose the edge when that happens. Now, they're also protected. They're also protected. All right. And so they explain it like on five is you buy stuff really cheap and you hold on to it as long as you can. And if you want to, if you're interested in staking, you can stake and earn a little bit more, right, by doing the staking. Now that's where the actuator protocol comes in, because with the actuator protocol, and there'll probably be other protocols in the future that'll leverage the same tech, because they are staked as HSIs, which are hex staking instances. It makes the future different, right? And there's nothing wrong with native staking. I have a lot of native stakes. God bless anybody who wants to continue doing native stakes. It is the strongest signal of commitment to hex. It really is. But from a user perspective with HSIs, an HSI does allow you to, number one, move from one wallet to another. And then that HSI, the hex staking instance, HSI, can be utilized as collateral in a number of different ways, right? Could be sold outright itself. It could be used as collateral in other protocols that may come in the future. And in Actuator, it allows you to, using those, you can delegate them to the Actuator protocol and mint HTTs, right? And basically take a loan on your own value, which is very similar to HELOC, very similar to HELOC in that way. And so, yeah. And then the final piece of that, and I would say to you on the T-share rate stuff, point them over to the T-share report. I'm doing that weekly, and we do continue to cover all the basics. But yeah, that the T-share rate just continues to go up, and that is built into the system. Is what I don't know, that was designed specifically with the idea in mind that that's how compound interest is simulated, but that is the effect. That is the effect. And so what we see is similar to Bitcoin. There's lots of literature on this when people want to go look at it. Similar to Bitcoin, HEX does have what we call share rate changes. And that's very much similar to a difficulty adjustment. And so you can see, like, I'm tracking on the Pulse chain here, the number, the amount of HEX per T-share required in order to get a T-share for one day. And it's gone up from 44,877 about a month, I guess about 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, and on the 12th of April. And now it is at 45,070. In fact, it also went up yesterday a little bit, and then a couple of days before that it went up twice. And so these are difficulty adjustments. And so the sooner people come in and stake, the better their T-share rate, and that means that the higher their yield will be, because I'll get more T-shares for the same amount of HEX. So it's a little bit of a game that way. So over time, not seeing this, I got to show it to you. Let me show it to you. Sorry, guys. I'm talking, but I'm not showing. Let me put that on the screen. Here we go. And so what I was just talking about is, you can see we had a change today where T-share rate went up 47 HEX today. And then yesterday it went up 5.2. On the 21st, it went up, looks like 5 HEX per T-share, but it was broken into 2 pieces. And in this way, you really can't just can't sit on your laurels if you're interested in HEX, right? Now, listen, as I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're at least aware a little bit about HEX, right? Welcome new people, right? But you're probably aware a little bit of HEX, and you don't necessarily hate people that stake. In fact, you might be a staker within the walled garden. And if you are, that's why we're talking about this kind of stuff, because it's not for everybody, right? It's for people who are interested in creating income streams, right, using HEX. And again, Actuator is backed and based on HEX. And that's how we get all the way back to, hey, Actuator and HTTs are very much related to this and open up the possibilities. In fact, when we're talking about staking and whatnot, I've pretty much concluded, in my mind, for me, the best approach is to make an HSI as I stake, because it just gives me more options. Because I don't know if I'm going to be around 15 years, So, and maybe I want to change wallets when I want to move stuff around. I don't know. There's a lot of different options. I don't have to do anything with them. I'm just keeping my options open. But in the case of the Actuator protocol, not only can I access that value, and it doesn't hurt the HEX because the HEX is still locked up. Now, there's an argument that some people will make that it does hurt demand for native HEX because people have access to other stuff. But again, this is DeFi. People make protocols. It's out there, and people are going to use it whether you want them to use it or not, right? And so it's out there. In fact, though, I would say the reverse, and this is what I've been talking about with this. I know that we're talking about making a few bucks here and there with trading and whatnot. That's not super exciting. It doesn't take very many bad moves to wipe out games, right? And so a lot of people are not super excited about, hey, I'm going to trade for 1%. And again, my premise is that trading is part of crypto, and whether I trade or not, somebody's got to trade. Somebody's going to be doing that out there, and maybe there's really smart people that always win. I think the odds are that's not the case. But at today's prices, a $1 trade, not too exciting. But at 100x, that's $100 in profit. And if you're upsizing that position, you have the ability, if you can kind of like imagine this in the future with HEX being at a very high price, that a protocol like this that allows some people who want to exit early to be able to exit early, and for those who want to be able to get at their value early and do something with it, I could really see this bond desk, this bond trading really take off. And again, we can't know the motivations. You can try to guess, but you can't know the motivations of everybody that does everything. But there's another thing about DeFi. If there are pools out there and tokens are available, what else do I need to know? At this level, and we're talking about people, if somebody really wanted to just get out of the HSIs and convert them to HTTs and sell them on the market, I guess they would do that. So there we go. A couple more comments, and then I'm going to drop on this. I think I hit everything I wanted to hit on this. We're really just trying to get people exposed to the HEX and the Actuator.Finance ecosystem. You go and take a look at that again. Actuator, Actuator.Finance. It's a good website. Immutable code over there, audited, documented. You can go look at it all and see that. Yeah, checks. That's what I'm saying too. These are some pretty cool tools. Now, I will tell you that, and this is kind of how I'm referring to a lot of the stuff. Like when I start feeling bad and I'm like, man, I'm chasing pennies from freight trains, I kind of stop myself. Well, what am I really doing? I'm super interested in HEX and the success of HEX. And so yeah, for me, a lot of these moves and thoughts now are about learning about things, right? I'm learning about a lot of stuff. And, where I wouldn't have been able to make moves because it would be too expensive to do this kind of learning as we go at very high prices. The prices are low right now. I can actually get things set up. And again, just DeFi, right? So people can do what they want to do. And passive income is something that I've always been interested in. And this is kind of brings us together. Extra crypto saying, imagine the FOMO HEX staking will have when the OA tightened the yield purposely for adjustment to price appreciation. Yeah. So I'll say it in a couple, different words. I think they're at much higher prices. Of course, we're just say higher prices. At higher prices and with an ever increasing APR, which the APRs are going to go up, right? I guess in theory, the OA could bring APRs down a little bit, but I don't see any reason that it would do that, but it can't really bring it to zero, right? APRs are going to be out there for HEX as it goes along, right? And right now, running around 4% for a Quattro Cinco, something in that range. But the way things work with the share rate increasing and shares expiring over time is the APRs are going to go up, right? And so again, one possible future is that those APRs go up much faster, much sooner than a lot of people thought, to a much higher numbers, where they might be 10, 20%, right? 30% again. And and that's with the staking HEX, right? And in that situation, combined with increased dollar value, the FOMO could be insane. It could be insane, right? Because one T-share, if you just, and if you didn't want to do like moon math, just go back to where we were and say, well, at one time, HEX was doing, 5 HEX per T-share. Well, at $1, that's $5 per T-share per day, right? And so all of a sudden, that changes the math quite a bit about how many T-shares you're going to need, right? And to be able to generate good amounts. And so now the opportunity is, and this kind of goes back to the question that was being asked earlier about this situation with HEX. Right now, I mean, you guys, you really think I don't know. I mean, I know $5 is a lot of money for a lot of people in the world, but let's face it, most people probably listening to this, North America, I can almost not buy a cup of coffee for $5, right? And that's not a lot. Right. And, and for very little, I can get a lot of HEX. And so if I'm interested in the risk that HEX will never come back in order to get the reward, then it could be a pretty good deal. Could be a pretty good deal. So we have to see how it goes. Yeah, Brian's saying, I'm extremely bullish on Actuator because I love Quattro Cinco, any style, legacy versus HSI. Yeah. And hats off to people with Quattro Cincos out there doing Quattro Cincos and native staking. I'm pretty, and again, gets into the weeds, but I'm kind of stoked on the Actuator side of things because, I'm able to come and do Quattro Cinco stakes every time. I can do Quattro Cincos, and right now what I would probably do with it is I do a Quattro Cinco mint Quattro, I mentioned mint HTT 7000s or something like that if I was going to mint at it this time, and then I'd LP them to earn the rewards, right? And then wash, rinse, repeat. I know a lot of people have been doing that. But again, with because I can do something with those HSIs, I'm a little more comfortable with the idea of just doing Quattro Cincos and Quattro Cinco only, because it's a viable market, right? I might have to wait different times, but there is a viable market out there that is funded that allows me to do something with those HTTs. And now perhaps we're going to see that with the Hedron protocol coming back. Maybe we're going to see that with Sigma. I don't know. But those are all parts of the ecosystem as well, or will be. It's around here. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah. You're saying, well, they're down now, but in HEX terms, it'll match price in the future. Yeah, you're talking about that again, that equalization because there's less inflation. The idea would be it's more scarce and therefore will support higher prices and combo. Yep. And Hex Hodler, I see you out there. All right, friends. Well, hey, listen, you guys have a great night, great day, depending on where you are. For my Asian buddies, good morning. Good morning to you. Yeah, stay crispy. We'll be back with the T-share report next couple of days. If you have questions about Actuator, pop them up. I'm not a founder or anything. I'm not part of the team, but I'm utilizing that protocol because I do see it. But do your own research. Go look at the website and take a look at that. And with that, guys, we'll end. We'll send you out with T. I'm going to work on getting a new one. I keep saying that. I actually did it today. I was looking at making videos, but I don't know if I can recreate this. Somebody had done this for me. All right. And you guys take it easy. We'll see you next time.
Yo, T, urgent HEX buy signal. Chart's flaming hot.
Golden ratio, huh? That's how legends stack T-shares.
Get them while they're crispy, folks. This window won't stay open long.
Stake smart. Win big. Time rewards those who act.
Stay crispy, Hexicans.
You gotta move it, move it! Feel the rhythm of the blockchain.